Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Matt Gaetz finds his new position in the front lines. Daniel Penny shows us that good people are rewarded. And Pete Hegseth overcomes the adversity trying to stop him. Okay, let's get into it. Matt Gaetz, after resigning from Congress and withdrawing his nomination for Attorney General, will host his own one-hour show on the One America News Network, OAN, in primetime starting in January. The network said that Gaetz' new one-hour show will air at 9 p.m. Eastern. Earlier this week, they released promotional images of the Matt Gaetz show. Gaetz will also co-host a weekly video podcast with OAN's Dan Ball. The network president said Mr. Gaetz will provide extensive insight and analysis of the incoming administration for our viewers. You'd think we'd be talking about the election, but lost in the noise is the greatest threat facing America's sovereignty. The fiat dollar is being eviscerated as the U.S. is creating $100,000 of debt per second. The global de-dollarization trend is accelerating as BRICS nations introduce a new global currency called the unit. Is a global monetary reset coming? Was the October BRICS summit the trigger? The unit would be pegged 40% to gold and 60% to a basket of BRICS currencies. BRICS countries commit the unit a new settlement token using the gold held within their borders. Isn't it time to protect your retirement with gold or place a bullish bet on silver? The time is now to call the proud Americans of the Patriot Gold Group. Call them today before it's too late and tell them that Front Page with Scott Goulet sent you, and you'll always get the best in class service from Patriots, protecting Patriots. The Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. So call the toll-free number 888-857-0495 and get a free investor guide today, or just click the link in the description below to visit their website, or you can also scan the QR code. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer 7 years in a row. Again, call 888-857-0495. That's 888-857-0495. Daniel Penny spoke out for the first time since his acquittal. This case has been closely watched nationally since it was highly controversial from the very beginning. Anyone in their right mind could recognize Penny as a hero for stopping Neely, who was threatening subway passengers. A mother testified that she was sitting on the subway with her 5-year-old son and was terrified of the belligerent and deranged Neely. The mother said she had seen people who were mentally unstable, but she felt different this time.
He was just threatening to kill people. He was threatening to go to jail forever, go to jail for the rest of his life.
Another witness also said that she was terrified and that Neely scared the hell out of us. She saw the fight between Penny and Neely in its entirety, and she said afterward that she was grateful to the Marine veteran for intervening. The mother said that she didn't think Penny was trying to choke Neely to death at the time.
And now where I'm on the ground with him, I'm on my back in a very vulnerable position. If I just would have let go, now he turns.
Why is that a vulnerable position?
Well, if I just let him go, I'm on my back now. He can just turn around and start doing what he said to me. So
Killing,
hurting.
Even though he was prosecuted for protecting a passenger, Penny says he has no regrets.
If someone did get hurt, if he did do what he was threatening to do, I would never be able to live with myself. And I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from getting hurt or killed.
Even though the jury could not reach a unanimous verdict on whether Daniel Penny was guilty of manslaughter last Friday, the judge did not immediately acquit Penny. The judge then instructed the jury to consider the second charge of criminally negligent homicide. Penny's attorney, Stephen Razor, disclosed what happened in the courtroom.
Well, we're concerned because the way in which they got to that second count really was unprecedented, because of the fact that we're not supposed to encourage a compromise verdict, because if you have a deadlocked jury, you don't want to tell them, well, just why don't you guys just agree that you can go with the lesser count, right? And the law is actually set up that way so that doesn't happen. Unfortunately, when the district attorney went out of their way to give the jury... Alvin Bragg gave another bite at the apple, if you will. So they actually removed it with the help of the judge, removed that top count to get to that second count. Once they got there, we, of course, had concerns now that you're either going to have a deadlock jury on that count as well, or if you have somebody who's considering a guilty verdict on the top count, they may very well be considering a guilty verdict on the second one. So at that point, we felt the best we could really hope for was a hung jury. But we didn't know. And we also did feel that there was some interplay here as far as understanding the lengths at which this district attorney's office would go in order to secure a conviction, which was quite off-putting for the defense team. We've never seen anything quite like it.
Another one of Daniel Penny's defense attorneys, Thomas Kenneth, said that the operation that Alvin Bragg did has never been seen before.
So the whole, crux of our argument is, as Stephen just laid out, is that, when you have a jury and they're told from the time of jury selection that these are the counts you're going to consider, and unless you get past this manslaughter second degree count, you're never going to consider this other count. And then on the fourth day of jury deliberations, that's turned upside down, right? The only reasonable inference that the jury can take from that is that, look, the court really wants us to get a conviction somehow, some way. And it never had been done, between the two of us. We have 50 years experience, former prosecutors, defense attorneys. No one had ever seen this. In fact, when it was proposed, one of the things we said to the judge was, well, can the district attorney show us one case anywhere in the history of New York law where this has happened? There was deafening silence in the courtroom.
But it was precisely this anomaly in the prosecutor's operation that caused the jurors to doubt the fairness of the case.
Precisely, which is the reason why we felt this may have an impact on them to say, something's not right here. This district attorney's office is going way too far and way too hard on trying to get a conviction at nearly all costs. And that, to them, I believe, had to be off-putting enough for them to say, there's something wrong here, and I think they've just gone too far.
And currently, Daniel Penny will still face a civil lawsuit from Neely's father, and there are also extremists who have threatened Penny's life.
And this is a huge burden lifted from his shoulders, for sure. But there are scars that will remain here. And you see, what you just heard there is part of it, right? So Danny, for the rest of his life, will really be always kind of looking over his shoulder a little bit. So congratulations to these agitators who have wanted that to be what occurred, because that is, to some extent, what has occurred. However, Danny's strong enough to be able to move forward in his life, and he will pursue his architectural degree, and he's going to do great.
But we believe that good things do happen to good people. Immediately following the acquittal of Marine veteran Daniel Penny, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who prosecuted Penny, faced pressure to resign or be removed from office. New York City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino is calling for the incoming Trump administration to launch a civil rights probe against the Manhattan DA's office for its handling of the Daniel Penny case. Accusing Alvin Bragg of being racist, Palladino said, "We have seen what A.G. Bragg has been capable of and has tried to pursue. They make it a vendetta. He's definitely political. This is politicized, and I think he needs to be investigated. I think the whole DA's office in Manhattan needs to be investigated." The New York Post editorial board declared on Monday Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's effort to persecute Penny failed, and Bragg should pay the ultimate political price for trying. Ed Cox, the chairman of the New York State Republican Party, issued a statement saying that although the jury ultimately reached the right verdict, Irving White should never have indicted Penny for political motives in the first place. He should step down and be replaced by a prosecutor who puts safety, justice, and ethics above partisanship and ideology. Representative Mike Lawler said that Alvin Bragg should be removed from office immediately. Councilman Joe Borelli nonchalantly said that Alvin Bragg should resign in shame. From the beginning of his tenure, Alvin Bragg has proposed policies soft on criminals. Daniel Penny says that these policies are a clear failure.
I certainly didn't know him before this, but he doesn't even want to feel this way now. I mean, it's all this chaos around him that has caused him to focus on the fact that he was treated unfairly.
Although Bragg was elected by the voters, New York state law prevents voters from initiating a recall. If he doesn't resign, only the governor can remove Bragg. Despite being criticized by conservatives, Alvin Bragg does not seem to be about to give up his ideology. The New York hush money case is currently on hold following the election of President Trump. President Trump's attorneys have asked the judge to vacate the conviction so as not to interfere with his future presidency. Trial judge Juan Merchant is currently suspending the sentencing hearing, requiring the defendant to file a formal motion to dismiss and requiring a response from the prosecution. The Manhattan District Attorney is trying to avoid dismissal of the case and is currently proposing a variety of options in an effort to maintain the conviction. The DA's rationale is that there is no immunity for subsequent presidents. The prosecutors wrote, "There are no grounds for such relief prior to defendant's inauguration because president-elect immunity does not exist. Even after the inauguration, the defendant's temporary immunity as the sitting president will still not justify the extreme remedy of discarding the jury's unanimous guilty verdict and wiping out the already completed phases of this criminal proceeding." The prosecution's proposals include freezing the case until the end of President Trump's term or granting President Trump that he will not go to prison in the future even if he is convicted. Another option is to declare President Trump convicted but close the case, noting that President Trump has not been sentenced because of presidential immunity. It's worthy to note that this case cannot be resolved on appeal. Stephen Chung, a spokesperson for President Trump's transition team, called it another pathetic attempt by the prosecutors to salvage an unconstitutional and politically motivated scam. Stephen Chung said in a statement that this outrageous case should never have been filed and should be dismissed immediately under the Constitution. Separately, the New York State Attorney General's office said on Tuesday that they will not dismiss the civil fraud case against President-elect Trump despite his request. The actual amount of fines that were imposed on President Trump in the case now exceed $497 million with interest accruing during the appeal period. Deputy Attorney General Judith Vale wrote a letter to President Trump's attorney John Sauer that President Trump's request for New York State Attorney General Letitia James to dismiss the case was unfounded. James's office argued that presidents do not have immunity from civil litigation arising from unofficial conduct, and they said that lawsuits may proceed while the president is in office. Heritage Foundation VP Roger Severino said that Letitia James violated President Trump's civil rights and the rights of the American people, and those are prosecutable offenses. After several reports of mysterious drones flying over New Jersey last week, Representative Jeff Van Drew, a Republican from New Jersey, uncovered some alarming details. Today, he told Fox News that Iran launched a mothership about a month ago off the east coast of America.
In focus now, Republican Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, member of the House Judiciary Committee on the Hill right now. How do you address this at this point?
Well, here's the real deal, Harris. You know, I'm also on the Transportation Committee, on the Aviation Subcommittee, and I've gotten to know people. And from very high sources, very qualified sources, very responsible sources, I'm going to tell you the real deal. Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones. That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the east coast of the United States of America. They've launched drones, is everything that we can see or hear. And again, these are from high sources. I don't say this lightly. Now, you know, we know there was a probability it could have been our own government. We know it's not our own government because they would have let us know. It could have been some really glorified hobbyist or hobbyists that were doing something unbelievable. They don't have the technology. But let's pretend that's possible. The third possibility was somebody, an adversarial country, doing this. Know that Iran made a deal with China to purchase drones, motherships, and technology in order to go forward. The sources I have are good. They can't reveal who they are because they are speaking to me in confidentiality. These drones should be shot down. Whether it was some crazy hobbyist that we can't imagine, or whether it is Iran, and I think it very possibly could be, they should be shot down. We are not getting the full deal, and the military is on alert with this.
But a Pentagon spokeswoman denied the claim from Van Drew that there is an Iranian mothership launching drones into the U.S.
Representative Jeff Van Drew, who is a Republican from New Jersey, was just on the air saying that Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones, and that mothership is off the east coast of the United States. Is there any truth to that?
There is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the coast of the United States, and there's no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States.
And to confound the issue, the Biden administration has renewed a controversial sanctions waiver that will allow Iran access to some $10 billion in payments from Iraq. Secretary of State Antony Blinken again extended the waiver for humanitarian trade, which permits Iran to access accounts in Iraq and Oman. State Department spokesman Vedant Patel confirmed that on November 7th, the department did renew Iraq's electricity waiver for the 23rd time since 2018. It was done so for an additional 120 days. However, the waiver is set to expire after President Trump takes office in January. Defense Secretary candidate Pete Hegseth has been under heavy fire from the mainstream media since his nomination, and a fair number of senators have also said they're going to think long and hard about supporting him. Despite his own words that he would stay in the fight, the outcome was uncertain until this week. There was a series of anonymous accusations, one after the other. Although they were from 10 years ago, they were too numerous to be ignored. Senator Richard Blumenthal told reporters that 5 to 10 Republicans opposed Hegseth's confirmation, and they were waiting for the right time to come out. There was also news that the panel that is responsible for advancing Hegseth's nomination to the full Senate, the Armed Services Committee, already had a replacement for Hegseth. Even President Trump was considering nominating Ron DeSantis to replace Hegseth. Last Wednesday, Senator Joni Ernst declared after meeting with Hegseth that she had not yet decided to support Hegseth's nomination. Senior Senator Lindsey Graham also hinted at the same attitude. But on the same day Hegseth began his own campaign, he began to refute the allegations against him one by one in the media. At the same time, Hegseth's former co-workers, friends, and supporters began rallying behind him, with several dozens going on the record to dispute the allegations. His mother also came forward to accuse the pro-establishment media of biased reporting. Afterwards, Hegseth continued his meetings with senators. Now, the responses from these senators is quite positive. So the situation has begun to change, and senators who don't support Hegseth's nomination are also facing pressure from President Trump's supporters. After all, 4 years ago, not a single Democratic senator opposed any of President Biden's nominations. By early Friday morning, political journalist Mark Halpern reported that there are changes as reflected in the evolving views of valued sources. He wrote in his newsletter, earlier in the week, my sources made it clear that they thought Pete Hegseth's chances for getting confirmed were low or none. New developments, some in the last 24 hours, have altered the landscape. Then, Ernst's opposition began to break. Graham also began walking back his opposition. Other Republican senators who were initially skeptical of Hegseth, including Kevin Cramer, a Republican in Texas, and Mike Rounds, a Republican in South Dakota, are starting to back down. On Monday morning, a dramatic scene unfolded. Photos of both Graham and Ernst with Hegseth, who was then the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America from a decade ago, surfaced on X as a reminder that Hegseth had supported them in the past. By Monday afternoon, both Ernst and Graham struck a different tune after their second meeting with Hegseth. Ernst said, "As I support Pete through this process, I look forward to a fair hearing based on truth, not anonymous sources." Graham, for his part, called his meeting with Hegseth very positive, thorough, and candid. By Tuesday, the Wall Street Journal also acknowledged that there should be no resistance to Hegseth's appointment. And the Wall Street Journal reported Donald Trump supporters launched an intense pressure campaign to keep lawmakers in line behind the president-elect's most controversial nominees. It appears to be working. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember that every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you, but please double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We've also heard that some of you don't get notifications of our videos anymore on YouTube. So when you do subscribe on YouTube, please make sure to tap the notification bell as well. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.